podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same, one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
Shield Knight, Mystic, Ranger, or a Holy Monk. Your goal is to traverse a monster-infested dungeon with the other adventurers in search of your legendary magical armor. You and the other heroes will take turns pulling monsters and drawing the loot that they have dropped. But just because you won your role, your treasure isn't safe. Players will backstab and undercut each other at every turn to become the ultimate Lewt Ninja. If you're successful, and you've collected all 8 pieces of your armor, you will win the game. But if enough pieces have been stolen from you, it becomes a race, and you must then win and steal as much of the loot as you can.
Sound familiar? It didn't to me either. But this is the story of Loot Games, a new game on Kickstarter we'll find out about shortly. But first, it is time for Kickstarter Corner. Today I'm only joining you and it's going to be quick but brief but fun, hopefully. I just wanted to tell you about a couple of Kickstarters that we have going on. First one I wanted to tell you about was, well, hopefully you've already went ahead and backed it, but if you haven't, I wanted to tell you and remind you to hurry and go back Cauldron, Bubble, and Boil before it ends, because it's about to end, and you don't want to miss out on this great game. It is a game about where you can go ahead and become, if you go ahead and back it, you can become one of the witches or warlocks of the head of the Coven at the time of this recording, with less than 20 hours to go. So when you listen to this episode, there will be probably 12 hours or so, depending what not left. But at the time of this recording, when there was 20 hours left, they had only to go about a little less than $1,000. Well, maybe a little bit more than $1,000, but still, anyways, it was almost there. And if you want to get a copy of the game, you might as well rush upon it and get a Kickstarter edition for $39, the deluxe edition for $59. Haven't you ever wanted to become a witch or a warlock, putting stuff into your cauldron? Well, now is your chance. Back this on Kickstarter before it's too late. And then another one that is about to roll out on Kickstarter this coming Monday is Monday the 28th of September, is Ancient Artifacts, a pen and paper dice game for 1 to 4 players. We will talk about it later on. We'll have the interview about it coming up here relatively shortly, but just a quick rundown on it. It's battle human jungles, deep oceans, burning deserts, tomb raiders, and even other archaeologists in the search for artifacts and glory. Want some 90s nostalgia? Well, this game, as I was interviewing the creator, reminded me a lot of Indiana Jones, and it's been forever since I seen that movie, and it was still able to remind me of it. So make sure you go check out the Kickstarter before it becomes too late. And then a couple others that we wanted to tell you about, just so you're aware, or just so you're aware of them, are Head Chef. That just recently closed down, but definitely go check out the Kickstarter page, and you can be signed up for updates for when they relaunch, but you can become the head chef. Also, we have Hank's game still on Kickstarter. Hopefully we'll back. It will go ahead and pledge. Hopefully it will go ahead and fund. It is Legends of Magic on Kickstarter. It's a miniature game created by a father and son over there in China, and we're really hoping that one backs. And then we also have Dawn of the Archmage. I know they're going to relaunch this game on the 12th of September, so look out for that. If you backed it, or even if you didn't, go check out the latest update. There's some exciting new stuff happening over at the Kickstarter page of Dawn of the Archmage. Don't forget to go to Facebook to join the community, as there's an event going on. I can go ahead and leave the link in my show notes for that, so you'll be aware of that as well. And then what else do we have going on? Well, lots of great stuff. We have Potato Pirates. Remember that great game I was telling you about, where you can go ahead and become a computer programmer without touching a computer? Well, this is a game where you can learn coding without computers. Go ahead and figure that out, and they will be launching on Kickstarter on Monday, I believe, as well. Potato Pirates. Coding without computers. And then we also wanted to make you all aware of a couple more that are coming to the Kickstarters, or that are already there. Yeah, how about the ones that are already there? That would be great, wouldn't it, Game Relief? Well, we've got Rise of the Exiled. If you caught our last episode, you know all about that. Is throwing your cards at your opponent's cards in hope to come off victorious. It can be played with kids all the way up to elderly adults. So don't let age be an issue in backing that game. Have fun throwing cards at your opponent. Not really, though. Well, kind of really. And if you don't win, by all means, and don't tell them I told you this, but by all means, throw the cards at your actual opponent. Ha 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 ha. So those are on Kickstarter. And also, watch out for Scrooge the board game. That's coming at you soon as well on Kickstarter. Let's see here. Is there any more that we've forgotten? I don't believe so. Those are a couple that are coming to the Kickstarters, and they will be great. So make sure you catch them while you can. Getting geeky with Game Relief. Yeah, it looks like you're a veteran. Which service were you in?
So I was in the United States Army, and I served for a total of 16 years before I was injured in Iraq, and then medically retired back in 2010.
Oh, wow, you made it longer than me. I was in the Air Force from like 2006 to 2010. They were talking about medically retiring me, but I got out before that, as I was injured in Afghanistan for a little bit. So let's talk a bit about, let's see here. So is there, with the military and whatnot, is there anything you can tell us about it that you wouldn't have to kill us?
Yeah,
want people listening to this end up dying because they were tuning into a podcast about where we talk about games, especially the one or two viewers I might have listening.
Yeah, the military was probably the greatest thing that ever happened to me, honestly. I mean, I knew from like the age of 5 I wanted to be a soldier, and I did a lot of stuff growing up playing, soldiers and wars and stuff like that with nerf guns and water guns, and then was in ROTC in high school and stuff like that, and joined the military right out of high school. But for me, the big thing was just the family that the military is. You get that
camaraderie.
Yeah, the camaraderie, but the sense of like real brotherhood that you don't usually see like in a normal workplace if you're working at FedEx or something,
Yeah. Definitely cool. Yeah, I'm kind of the opposite. When I was, I always had dreams of always thought if they do a draft, I'm going to be the first one I'm going to go to Canada and dodge it. And then after a while, me and my wife got married. We had a couple kids, and then I thought, I don't know, it just popped into my mind that I needed to join the military. So that's what I did. And then, yeah, it was $1 million experience. I wouldn't pay a penny to do again. But yeah, I really liked it when I was in.
Really? I don't know. For me, one of the things I've always been asked, if I had to do it all over again, would I join? And I guess the thing is, I think it depends on like the job that you had sometimes. And like I loved my job in the Army. I was what's called a 14 Romeo, which is a Bradley linebacker crew member, and it's part of the air defense branch of the Army. So we shot down all the aircraft, but we never actually shot down any aircraft, and haven't shot anything down since like Korea. Even in the last war in Iraq. But I mean, I absolutely loved my job. I mean, going down the ranges and firing a 25 millimeter cannon and a 7.62 machine gun, tow missiles and Stinger missiles was absolutely some of the greatest things I ever did. But you know, that job no longer even exists in the military after OIF2. I was phased out and reclassed into the military police corps, and that wasn't really a good fit for me. Just came from two different backgrounds. A lot of people who grew up as MPs were pretty different. So, you know, I was in all male unit. MPs are co-ed. A lot of drama here and there that just wasn't used to. So, just wasn't a good fit for me.
Oh boy, I really like my job. I think my hardest part was being away from my family because at the time I deployed, we had 5 kids at the time and just had a baby and whatnot. I think that was the biggest problem with it. Other than that, I really like my job as well.
Yeah, you know, that's the one thing. The last deployment, you know, I left home to go to Iraq, and it was part of the 15-month surge with General Petraeus. And you know, you leave home, and your son is 5 years old, and you come home, and he's 7. It's a big time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's gotta be rough. Let's see here. So, does someone so ingrained in the military? How does somebody so ingrained in the military like you were? You said you wanted to do it from the get go, even when you were a little kid, if I remember right. How does somebody so ingrained in the military get into gaming?
Well, believe it or not, I didn't have a father in my life. It was just me and my mom growing up, and my mom played a lot of board games with me and stuff like that. We played anything from Scrabble, Monopoly. It seemed like every Christmas, every birthday, I got a new board game of some type. We were always playing games together, and when I'd have friends over, we'd play games, and then we kind of lost a little bit of that. And then one day I just kind of discovered role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, and then tabletop miniature games like Battletech and Warhammer and stuff like that. And I really got into that. And the big thing that I really got into was the Palladium games for Rifts. And I would GM all the time, and I would make up all these campaigns. And then even when I joined the Army later down the road, I got some of the soldiers and other NCOs together, and that liked the game, and we would make up campaigns and play either Robotech or Battletech or even Dungeons and Dragons, the Middle Earth and GURPS and stuff like that. So I've always kind of just been, you know, playing games my entire life, and I've always thought it would be really cool to make games. But the biggest revelation for me was back in 2009. I was going through physical therapy for my injuries, and the physical therapist walked out and handed me a Nintendo Wii controller.
Uh-oh.
And they said, "We're going to play golf today for therapy." And I was pretty angry at the world because of my injuries and stuff like that. So I didn't really care, to be honest. And we started playing, and I realized that with the Nintendo Wii, you could cheat. You really didn't have to do like the full swing. You could just swing around.
Yeah.
And but then like this epiphany kind of hit me, and I went, you know what? These games could be used for physical therapy, but all these games are designed for people that are not injured, that don't have injuries, that don't have disabilities. So it became this big thing for me. I decided I wanted to go to school and learn to make games so that I could make video games for people with injuries, with disabilities and stuff like that, where we actually use the motion sensors and the motion controls. And then, of course, Xbox came out with the Kinect, and then, you know, it was all revolutionary. You didn't have to have a controller. And then the Kinect 2 came out, and you could do all sorts of crazy things with the Kinect 2 that you can't even do with the first Kinect on the 360. So I've been really dabbling in trying to make video games where you have to use your physical therapy exercises to control your character in the world.
Wow, yeah, that'd be awesome. I know we had the Connect. We never really played it because with my kids, especially my son with autism, running back and forth in between the TV or whatnot. So we really didn't get much into it. And I think it's in a box since we moved. But yeah, it seemed like a pretty good concept. And you talked about Middle Earth role playing. Is that the MERP back from, when was it? I don't remember when the book came, but the red book from, I played it back in the late 90s or.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about when I started playing Middle Earth, was in the late 90s. Or actually it was kind of like the mid 90s, because I graduated in 96, so it was probably about 94, 95 when I started picking up the old Middle Earth. My one of my good friends that was in ROTC with me was a big gamer, and he introduced me to it, and we played it several times, and he was always GMing that one because he knew the systems more than I did, you know?
Cool. Yeah, but that's probably about the same time I played too, because I graduated in '98 and played before that. It's been a long time because after that I didn't pick it up, and Me and my family are trying to get back into role playing, but it's kind of scary, kind of overwhelming for me. But we're going to be doing that pretty soon here too, where we'll be role playing. So yeah, that'd be awesome with the physical therapy thing. Have you been able to do any kind of work with video games since you got out of school and whatnot?
Yeah, so once I graduated from school and got my bachelor's degree and stuff like that in video game design, I actually landed a job like a month right after I graduated. I went to the uh, game developers conference in San Francisco in 2014 and started networking, stuff like that, and met a lot of people from Blizzard and EA, and talked to them, and they were all like, oh yeah, we're all friendly for the military, you can just apply, we'll give you a job. And I mean, they made it sound like it was so easy, but it really didn't turn out to be that easy, because it's like anything else. You have to have like 4,000 years worth of experience, worked on 40 AAA titles, and that's just to get an entry level job.
Yeah, I never got that. Why you have to have experience, but then there's no way to get the experience, and it's kind of hit and miss. I don't even know how they do that.
Yeah, but there actually, one day I had found, just searching on the internet, there was two companies here in local that were doing work using video game technology, like the Unity game engine and the Unreal engine and stuff like that, and they were building simulators and different type of learning games and stuff for the military. And I just happened to call up to the one company, and they said their game designer had just quit and left out to go get a job somewhere else. And so they called me in about 2 days later, and I got a job. And then next thing you know, I'm sitting there developing this really interesting game where we kind of took our Clue and mashed it together with what's the word, Candyland, and made this game for the department or the Defense Language Institute, and allowed them to train their level 3 interpreters level 4. And you ran around in a Humvee on this board game that was displayed on a web browser, or you could do it on your phone, or it could be a standalone application that could be launched from any laptop or computer device, and you're just driving around these different cities targeted towards the languages that they wanted. And you had different encounters that you had to go through, or you had these branching dialogue systems where you had to talk to the different local nationals in the area, and this huge story narrative developed towards the lesson that you are currently on. And then the interpreters would sit there and write out reports on how they interpret those things and how they would affect the military's mission in that area of operation.
Cool, Bean. That sounds awesome.
And then right after that, we transitioned into working with the Oculus Rift headset, and we developed a unique training simulator for the military intelligence. And one of the things that they wanted was something where they didn't have to spend so much money on actually outfitting vehicles with cameras and other tracking devices to track their students in school. And they would actually have like these rigged up cities on the bases where they would go around and pretend to do things in these mock training exercises. And you're talking like, how much does it cost to equip a car every time, or a Humvee with cameras? And these cameras are like $10,000 rig cameras, because they're those same ones that like Google uses to map around the cities and stuff for Google Maps.
Oh wow!
And then you got the food, the housing, and all this for just troops, and they wanted to be able to kind of keep it, reduce the cost. So we built them this giant virtual world city where they could basically just make up any scenario on the fly and insert a student and connect them with other students, and they could all work together in this virtual environment, just using the headset and some motion sensors that were placed on the arms and legs, and they would walk on this omnidirectional like treadmill type deal and stuff like that, and just didn't even have to really program a scenario, but we still had like AI that were is pretty advanced. People would leave and go on smoke breaks, or you could actually walk up and rent a hotel room and go in and get a key and get your own hotel and stuff like that. So.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Yeah, that probably cut them back on money and have them spend a lot. It would seem like.
It was good times, but after that, funding kind of dried up for a lot of things, and of course, the way the world happens, you get laid off, and then you start thinking about what's the next thing to do. Start doing contract work for different companies like EA and stuff like that, and then you wonder about where your next paycheck's going to come from. So then you decide that what's the best thing to do? I think I'll just go ahead and start up my own company and make my own games, because that's really what I wanted to do in the beginning. And I felt like I had got enough experience at that point in seeing how a whole bunch of systems were developed and how the teams work cohesively, from artists to programmers to the designers to subject matter experts and stuff like that.
Cool beans. Yeah. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, as Richard from over at We're Not Wizards podcast likes to say. You have a game on Kickstarter. What can you tell us about it?
All right. So, while I was working at the last place, me and two of the programmers were talking about trying to make our own version of Blizzard's Hearthstone Heroes, where you get the different card games and stuff like that. And we wanted to come up with something kind of like that with difference. But, as the company started downsizing, stuff like that, people started moving, and that project kind of fell away. But I had the skeleton there, and what evolved into today, what is on Kickstarter is Lewt Ninja. And Lewt Ninja is really inspired from video games like World of Warcraft, Rifts, EQ, all those kind of games where you have this monster, you kill it, it drops items. And as much as that sounds like it's fun, people get tired of grinding away. But then I started thinking about those people that used to be back in the day when those games first came out, where you would kill something and they would just start taking the loot no matter what. And for Lewt Ninja, that's what it's about. It's about being in a group that's traveling through a dungeon of monsters, and you're got these monsters that are dropping all sorts of different types of loot. And then for you, the hero, you guys try to basically take the loot from each other, and whoever has the largest loot pile becomes the ultimate Lewt Ninja or the winner of the game.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I've been listening to the Glass Cannon podcast a lot lately, where they do the role playing, and every time they kill somebody or whatnot, or even if somebody's asleep or whatnot, they are going in and taking the loot from that person. They haven't stole it from each other yet, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. So today we have on the podcast Dewayne. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, but you can call me Cam. That's what everybody calls me.
Cam?
Yep.
Okay, so we have Cam on the podcast, and you're the designer and mastermind and developer of Lewt Ninjas, then?
Yeah, I am a Grunt Games, to believe it or not, is a one-man army. It's just me. I do everything from owner to design to marketing to financing and all sorts of stuff. So I try. I'm a jack of all trades, so I have my hands completely filled every day. But yeah, this pretty much started out with some guys kind of talking, and then it morphed into what I have today.
Well, yeah, it really looks really cool. That's cool beans. Now, before anybody goes AWOL on us and stops listening, it sounds like you have a giveaway going on over at the Giveaway Geek.
Yeah, so the thing that we're doing is that, we have, 20 days left on our Kickstarter. So, I decided that for the rest of the time on Kickstarter, we're going to give away one copy of Lewt Ninja through the giveaway geek.
Cool beans. So, and they'll get those when it's backed and funded, and everybody else is getting their games that purchases that backs it. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the big thing is um, even if we don't get back, I still want to make sure these people that are part of the that are out here in this contest, no matter what, you're going to get a copy of the game, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to get backed. I mean, we still have 20 days. We're asking for a large amount of money, but I don't think as much as if you look at like some of these other games. Some of these games are raising, anywhere from a couple $100,000 to millions of dollars just to get them off the ground. And the big thing is we're fully funded. We're not funded, but we're fully developed and illustrated, ready to go with our game already. And I can pretty much guarantee that as soon as this is funded and done, there's not going to be any issue. Everybody's going to get their stuff. There's a lot of cool things for the Kickstarter that we like. We came up with our own T-shirts and stuff for the company and the game. And then I have a really good friend that does some really awesome woodwork, and he's put together a really great wooden box that you can house your game in. And it really brings it to life when you look at it. You see the laser engraved wooden box go over top of your game itself.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah, because I saw that just briefly when I was watching the video, and then now I scrolled down and saw it on the Kickstarter exclusive. Yeah, it looks really amazing. I was at work, and so I just had a minute and I glanced over it when I was watching the video. But yeah, I was impressed by the box for sure. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually we tried different things, with the wood and stuff like that. And initially, the first box he sent me, like the game fit perfectly, like the bottom of the box fit perfectly in the bottom, and the top of the box fit perfectly in the lid. And then you try to put them together, and it didn't work. And I was like, oh man, we got to change this up. It's not working together. But no, we finally got it right. And like I have a couple samples and stuff like that of the game and the boxes and the T-shirts and everything like that. And I've been taking them around, showing people around town, and trying to get those things out there. Especially if you're not sure what some of the stuff look like, you can go onto the Kickstarter page. You can go onto the Facebook page for Lewt Ninja and Grunt Games. That stuff is all posted up there. I mean, we already have quite a bit of stuff ready to go. That's how much we really believe in this game. But to be honest with you, Lewt Ninja is more than just a game for Grunt Games. See, one of the things that I want you to understand here is that once Lewt Ninja gets out onto the market, every bit of the revenue that comes in is going to start being funneled into Grunt Games for development of the physical therapy games. And really, I'm starting this company from scratch. And I really wanted to build the physical therapy games, but building those games costs a lot of money. I mean, we're talking millions of dollars just to do. And to try and actually build something like that on my own is nearly impossible. So to really make sure that I can fund this and do it the way I want to, I decided to kind of backwards track, if that makes sense,
Yes,
and
sir.
build Lewt Ninja so that we can start developing these physical therapy games for people that are injured, people that have disabilities, and you can just sit there and you can do your physical therapy exercise at any time, anywhere, because the Kinect can hook to a computer. So you imagine like you're on your lunch break and you can sit there and do your physical therapy, or you can go home and do your physical therapy, or you could be at the clinic and do your physical therapy. So, and you don't have to schedule it every single time at the clinic. You can do it at your own pace, at your own time, every single day, and you can master your recovery time and your rehabilitation for whatever injury you have.
Yeah, that would be great. I know I work at the VA, and I'm always amazed because I go during my lunch break. I go down there and run sometimes on their treadmills, and people come in there and do their therapy. But that would be even funner than going down there and having somebody tell you whatnot. You actually see something, and maybe I don't know how the games will play out or whatnot, but it'd actually be funner than looking at watching the TV or listening to somebody say, "Go ahead and get on this machine for 15, 20 minutes and see how your pain level is afterwards." That sounds a lot funner than going to the gym and playing on some old broken day. Yeah, actually at the VA I'm at, they have it looks like all the equipment is like, I don't know, must have been donated and it's all out of date and whatnot. They didn't get new equipment, but that'd be a lot funner, and you can do that wherever you said.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to your VA and whatnot.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that like even if you go to the VA, the one thing that we really want to do is be able to sit here and build like an online community of people with injuries. So say that you have a shoulder injury and I have a shoulder injury, we could get online together and either compete or play a co-op game that would require us to use our shoulders. So maybe it's you play baseball, and it's a baseball game, so we're both pitching. You do some pitches, rest, I do some pitches, rest, and we're sitting there back and forth trying to strike people out. Where we could either be on the same team, you're the main pitcher, I'm the relief pitcher, or maybe it's a game where you're sitting there having to swim and you're doing the swimming motion and you have to stay within like certain boundaries, and if you get too close to the right, maybe a shark comes out and starts chasing you, so then you got to swim a little bit faster. It gives you a little bit of more motivation, but it's something different. It's something that you really just want to get into and just have like a lot of fun doing it. And then really once you start playing these games, you forget you're doing your physical therapy, and then you're just having fun and you're with a community of people that are doing it. And then you look at the next part of that is you have the connect is sitting there looking at your body, and the TV is giving you verbal cues whether or not you're doing the exercises correctly or incorrectly, and you're getting that feedback right then and there, which can help you make sure that you do recover, that you don't injure yourself any further.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Yeah, I hear about what do you call? I'm big into running and whatnot, and my favorite shoe company, Ultra, just released something where the shoe interaction kind of works as a virtual coach. But yeah, this is great. This would be great for therapy. And I noticed, like on my runs recently, that I did a lot better when I was able to listen to my podcast and whatnot. As opposed, it kind of lost me in it as opposed to when it was silent or whatnot. This way, they have when you're doing the therapy and whatnot, you have something to look at. You're not just getting on the machine and just pushing forward. This way, you're actually doing something. And yeah, and with the competing or working with somebody to do the co-op, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's that's why Lewt Ninja's Kickstarter campaign is so important. It really needs not just to get funded, but this is going to help us when it comes time to actually put Lewt Ninja in the stores. People need to understand that for every successful campaign, even a good majority of games still don't even make it into the stores. But this really has to happen for Grunt Games, because Grunt Games is trying to do so much more in terms of gaming. I'd like to still be able to keep a tabletop section of the company and keep building and building expansions for Lewt Ninja by adding new characters and new cards and new types of game modes and stuff like that. But then have a second section that's just focused totally on making these, physical therapy games. And the only way I'm going to be able to do that is to get Lewt Ninja to stores and start having it bring in revenue. So the more successful the campaign is for us, the more that the physical therapy games will become a reality for the entire world when they need it.
Yeah, wow, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I totally understand that. So that sounds like that's the main reason you're doing the whole Loot Ninja, but this yeah, way to get to the end goal or whatnot. So going back to Loot Ninja, what is your besides they do the physical therapy game and whatnot? What's your the thing you're most proud of about Loot Ninja?
So it's actually interesting to watch some of the kids play and some of the adults play that I've been testing with. And one of the craziest mechanics that we came up with, there's a card called Change Loot Rules, And if you ever played an MMO, you know you have the free-for-all loot, the round-robin loot, and the master looter and stuff like that. So this card, change loot rules, changes everything to free-for-all. And that card is actually the one card that a lot of the players who play this game actually love to play the most. And it's funny to watch because instead of just using cards through that game mechanic, players actually have to raise their hand up in the air and someone counts to 5, and then they have to slam their hand down as fast as possible to grab a loot card and put it into their stash. And just to watch the kids do it, you know, they're laughing the entire time, having a blast, and you know, they're trying to find a way to recycle that card back into their hand all the time to keep doing it. And it's kind of just really amazing to see at how much the kids really actually had fun playing the game, as I was, you know, designing it and play testing it throughout the different, you know, iterations of Lewt Ninja from start to finish.
Well, yeah, you talk about the play testing. What was there something during the play testing that just wouldn't work that you had to scrap and get rid of?
Oh yeah, so like initially the way the game was supposed to start was that you had your different heroes and they all had like ability cards, and you would have to use the ability cards to kill the monsters. And it took like one round took like almost an hour to play. And you're just like, wow, I thought this idea was going to be cool, but it turned out to be like just too long of gameplay just to get through. And then and originally it was like, I think there's like 12 pieces of armor that you had to find in order to win, and then I had to cut that down. And I mean, there's a lot of things when you're making a game that you look at the game mechanic and how it all works. And it was funny, in school they call each idea is called your baby, right? Uh-huh. And they say as a game designer you have to learn to eat your babies, because you can't be like, I love this, and try to nurture it and stuff like that. You just have to be ready for the signs of that this is a failure for the game. While it might not work with this game, take your baby and put it on the shelf, and it might work for some other game down the road. But right now, like, just trying to actually kill each monster that's in the game just wasn't really all that fun. So we totally just pulled that mechanic completely out, and we just basically say every time you pull a monster from the monster deck, we're already going to assume that it's dead, and it's going to tell you how many loot cards to draw. And then from there, you know, you pull the loot cards, and everybody just starts using their roll cards to see who can win, who's got the highest roll to win it. And then from there, you start using your player action cards to try and steal it. But, you know, with the player action cards, you can use at any point in time of the game. And, you know, where you can just make it so people can't roll or they can't use certain cards and stuff like that. But yeah, it goes so much faster. I think at most games it lasts anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes now.
Oh, cool. So the monsters are already dead then? You're just taking their loot, I guess.
Yeah, so, I mean, basically, you think about, like, the whole mechanic of, like, in World of Warcraft, just a looting system. You know, you walk up, you have the dead, sparkly monster that's got this sparkly treasure right there, and you just bend down, click on it, and you grab the loot. Mm-hmm. So we just made a game completely around just grabbing loot. And then we mixed it with the subculture that was back in the day. Used to call them ninjas when you were like in an instance group and stuff like that. And these guys would just roll need on everything. Like, they need this, they need that, they need this, they need that. And it didn't even matter if it like belonged to their class or not. So when you really think about Lewt Ninja, you're a group of 5 or, you know, up to 2. And you just sitting there trying to basically take all the loot, even if it doesn't belong to you, and keep it for yourself, you know. And you know, we kind of mashed up a little bit of stuff for, like, have you ever played Spades before?
It's been a long time. I think so, though.
Yeah, so Spades is a bidding game and stuff like that. And you got like, one of the mechanics for Spades is that if you get all 13 books at the end of in one game, you automatically win the whole game. The other team leaves, and basically that mechanic is in the game. So like, if you find all 8 pieces of your armor set, you win the game. But if another player steals your armor, then it becomes a race for you to try and steal as much loot and gain as much loot and keep their other heroes from gaining all their armor. and then at the end of it, whoever's got the most, cards worth of gold, and each card has like a gold value on it, becomes the winner.
Cool beans. Yeah, that sounds awesome. So, if say me and you were sitting down to play a game of Lewt Ninja, how would the turns look like? How does play sound? How does play work?
So the initial way we play, is each of us will pick one of the 5 hero classes, and the way I designed Lewt Ninja for everybody is I put 2 of each character class cards in each box. That way, say you and me decided that you're going to play a ranger and I want to play a ranger, we both could play the ranger, and I wouldn't be forced to have to pick. And everyone else, if we had more people, they could pick and play the same characters, and it also adds a little bit more of a competitive nature once you're playing the same character, because now you and me are looking for the same loot, right?
Yeah, that's really great because I know there's been several world wars almost break out between my kids, 'cause especially my girls, because they both want to be the same character. Like with the princess, like in Mario Monopoly Gamer, they both
Mm-hmm.
want to be Princess Peach, but there was only one, and so yeah, we thought there was going to be eyeballs ripped out or something.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing is like, and we tried to keep a lot of the aesthetics of the game to really mirror a lot of MMO stuff. So, like when you look at like the characters, they all have the same clothes, they all look the same, just like in an MMO. There's really very little customization and stuff like that. Back then, when all this stuff was kind of there, now they have more customizations where you can change the ways to certain things look, but the idea was to really look at like how MMOs were structured back when a lot of their mechanics were at their raw form, and make a game based off of that, because nowadays you can't be a ninja in most MMOs. They've got systems in place where people can't steal. So we're going way back to like retro MMOs when it first started out. And but, so you get the 2 characters, and the good thing though is the characters actually do have some meaning. It's not just about what gear you get. Each hero has their own special abilities, and as you collect your special magical armor throughout the game, you can start unlocking and using the abilities when it's your turn to start the round. So say like you have two pieces of your armor, you can unlock your first armor or your first hero ability, and then you get 4 pieces of armor, you can unlock your second armor ability, and then the third one is basically you win the game. So that's the way that kind of works, and once we have all our characters kind of passed out and decided who we want to play, we'll then deal out 7 cards from the player deck. And this is where, like I said, you have your roll cards. And instead of rolling dice, what I've done is create these cards that look like dice that have just random, number values on there. And you drop those down whenever you want to roll on a piece of armor or weapons or just any type of loot that's dropped by the monsters.
Okay, so that's what the roll cards are. I was wondering. Cool.
Yeah, so it's basically just like when in an MMO, when you hit greed or need to get your roll for your whatever loot is dropped from the monster, and then a number value would appear in your chat window saying you rolled the following number. You rolled the following number. So what we did was we took the roll cards and we incremented them in by 5. So starting at 1, and then go 1, 5, 10, 15, all the way up to 100. And there's 2 of every card in for the roll value. So then you can have a little bit of a tie roll scenario as well. And then once you got your 7 cards, and you can only keep up to 9 cards in your hand, and you can play as many cards as you want at any time. So like, but that only counts for the special action cards. So you can only play 1 roll card, but any of your other cards you can play as many as you want during the round. So once we got those cards issued out and we figured out who's going to go first, the first person to start the round will then pull a monster from the monster deck. And you can pull a monster, and they'll have like different kind of rules that will kind of figure out how the round will work. Some will say like, oh, pull one loot card, and you'll have one loot card, and that will be it, and everybody will roll on that, and we'll all lay down one roll card face down so no one knows. Just like in the MMOs, you have no clue who's rolling what until all of a sudden everybody flips it over, and then you see who wins. So, but once you do that, and you see who's over, players can then start taking out their special cards, which are colored with a red border or a blue border, and they have one has a system, kind of like a gear icon, and they're called system action cards. And then you have one that has like a player controller icon on the bottom. Those are the player action cards, and you can start using those to throw on people, like to negate their roll, like they never were able to do it. Like we have one, it's like bio break, and basically you said you had to go to the bathroom, so you weren't even able to roll, so your roll doesn't even matter anymore. Or Ninja Quit, where Ninja Quit's probably the most powerful card in the entire game, but it also has to be strategically played. So it's Ninja Quit is you play that and you get to steal every single piece of loot on the board and one item from every single player, but once you've done that, you can no longer play for the rest of the game.
Oh, well, so you're done. You got to do that. Like, you got to plan that right, huh?
Yeah, so it's a big. There's a lot of strategic, thought into how you play each card when you do a round. So there's a lot of thinking involved in this. So you think about how you want to play, because sometimes there might be some loot that you really don't want. I mean, like there are some really bad loot cards in there. Like there's used bandages and moldy bread and flasks of meat and stuff like that are worth like one piece of gold, and you're just like, I don't want that, when you lose a piece of your armor set, all of a sudden that one piece of gold could be the deal breaker for you at the end of the game if you start trying to win all the loot. So it becomes of like, what do I want to really roll on? What do I don't want to roll on? How do I want to block this player from getting his gear? How do I make sure I get my gear all the time and no one steals it from me? I mean, there's even cards that will allow you to take another player's loot card from their stash that they've already won, and it could be like 4 or 5 turns later down the road, And
I told I suffer from analysis paralysis. Is this going to make more people hate me? Is it going to take longer for me to do my turn?
No, I mean, the thing is, I think just like any game, once you learn the basics, it does take a little bit of time. And I suggest for like the first time you play, give yourself about an hour, because you're really going to want to read the rules on each card. You're really going to want to understand how they work. And the good thing too, that I really like about tabletop games and board games, is that I know as players, you guys are going to come up with your own rules, and you're going to change you're going to give your own interpretation of my rules and stuff like that. And I have no problem with that. I think that's the greatest thing in the world about board games, because you think about like Monopoly and free parking. Back in the day, free parking just meant you were safe. You didn't have to pay anything, but everybody now takes all the stuff from the taxes and stuff that you get on the
the house rules and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so house rules are going to come about. You're going to make up your own rules and figure things out to kind of go with the way you like to play Lewt Ninja. And I think that's going to be like the craziest part, is once people start actually learning the base mechanics, and then they're going to come up. And I'm going to put up a forums page on our website here pretty soon once we get out there. And I want people to really tell us how they changed rules of play, because when we come out with like the second edition or an expansion set for Lewt Ninja, we're going to institute those rules, and we're going to credit each person that put in those rules.
Well, there you go. Have you ever wanted to be part of an expansion or whatnot? You ever wanted your house rules to become something? Go ahead and back Lewt Ninja, and you can have the opportunity to do that. That's awesome to hear, Cam. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the players always come up with some really great new mechanics sometimes that you just don't think yourself, especially when you're like me and my company being a one-man operation. I can think of a lot of stuff. Like, for instance, when we were playtesting the game, I had this local high school has their own gamers club, and they play a lot of like Magic the Gathering, and there's a Pathfinder group, and then they have a lot of guys doing video games and stuff like that. And I first started kind of going there, and I would bring Pandemic with me and my kids because my kids are in high school. So we'd play Pandemic with the kids, and that's always like a whole ton of fun for us. And then one day I started bringing in to test the game with those kids, and at first I had made the cards kind of look like just like how you see the loot looks inside World of Warcraft. It has a little icon, it has like the list of where it goes, it had a money value, and the kids were like, why has it got a money value if you're never ever using it? And you're like, wouldn't it be really cool if you had like some kind of card you could play and it would let you sell the loot back and forth? And I was like, that's not a bad idea. So I went back that next whole week and I started really brainstorming with that. And then all of a sudden hit me, in World of Warcraft, there's this one dungeon that you walk into a library and there's this random dude and he's like, hey, do you want to buy some stuff? So we came up with the traveling merchant card. And the traveling merchant card, you play that and it lets you draw 5 cards from the top of the deck, and then you can take some of your cards and they have a sell price and a buy price on them, and you just add up the sell price, give those back to the loot deck, and then take the new item that you want. And that's how the whole traveling merchant card came about. And we kind of thought that it would be really great if there was more than just one of those. So we threw a total of 3 traveling merchant cards in just from the playtesting and listening to the gamers themselves, Well,
there you go. Yeah. So if, per se, somebody fell asleep during the podcast because they don't like the sound of my voice or something, and they're suddenly awake and listening to the last part of this, if they haven't been listening to, for some reason, the rest of the podcast, why should they take a chance on Lewt Ninja, Cam?
Well, I think the big thing about Lewt Ninja is that my artist and I worked with a really great artist named Sam Howard, and he has done a phenomenal job in the artwork. And one of the things is I just came to him with an idea, and I said, hey, I want an orc. And he says, what kind of orc? And I said, you make up your own orcs, you make up your own vampires, whatever you want to do. And I gave him free reign on all the artwork. I just said, this is what the card is called. And then he just kind of ran with it, right?
Uh-huh.
So there are a lot of hidden Easter eggs in our artwork, and like, I'll tell you one, there's a monster called the Dragon Hoarder. And instead of like, when you think of dragons and they're inside their cave, what are they usually doing? They're hoarding gold and stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, so our Dragon Hoarder doesn't hoard gold. I mean, he's sitting on a pile of M&Ms and candy and Skittles, and his tail is wrapped up, and he's got a big old lollipop in the tail, and he's just drooling over all the candy that he's got. So
awesome.
One of our game designs itself, one of the mechanics itself, was the Easter egg and the fun that you can have just looking at the cards. And we really want you just to have a good time laughing and just be with your friends. Because even no matter that this is a competitive game and you're trying to, steal from each other, the big thing is each mechanic is supposed to kind of make you laugh. Each card that you look at, you're just going to just look at it and go, man, what were these guys thinking when they drew this or when they came up with this card and these names and stuff like that. And, we're all about making people laugh and have a good time. So if you're looking for a game and you're looking for a game that you can get with a bunch of buddies and play and just laugh your butt off and have a really good time, Lewt Ninja is the game for you. I mean, I have seen kids backstab each other back and forth over the moldy bread card just for the fun of it. And then at the end of it, just laugh their butts off after the round was over and talk about that whole thing for like 3 to 4 weeks after the game was over.
Well, there you go. A game that stayed with you. That's awesome. So minus coming to the Kickstarter and or coming to your hometown and stalking you, where can people find you, Pam?
As far like on Twitter and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, we are on Twitter for Grunt Games, and then, it's at Grunt LLC, and then we have our Facebook page, of course, for both Grunt Games and Lewt Ninja, and then we also have our website, which is, grunt-games-llc.com. So there's many places to kind of get up in there. And the big thing too is I'm a pretty open person. So if people want to message me, you can find me on Facebook myself. It's Dewayne Cameron. I'm not afraid to, sit there and talk with people. If you want to learn more about the game, hit me up. I'm willing to talk about the game. If you want to just talk game design and stuff like that, if I got the time in the evening, I'll sit down and talk with you about game design. If you want to learn how to make your own games, I'm fine with teaching you how to start out and make games. I mean, that's the best thing about games, is that you can come up with every possible idea in the world. I mean, right now I'm working with 2 of the kids in the Gamers Club that want to learn how to make games. And I'm teaching them just the basic stuff and letting them kind of just grow and make their own games. And I just kind of give them the ideas of, well, why don't you go test this, and go, kind of put together a spreadsheet of how it works out and what was really, good about it and what was that. So like I said, I'm a very helpful person. I enjoy helping people. I enjoy having a good time. I enjoy gaming. I'll play anything from video games to board games to tabletop miniature games to card games. I really do love the way games bring people together.
Well, yeah, and that's what Getting Geeky with Game Relief is all about, bringing the family back to the table to play games together and whatnot. So, yeah, I don't want to keep you all night, but I really appreciate you coming on the podcast tonight, Cam, to talk about Lewt Ninjas. And if anybody's listening still, and I hope you are, if you're not, it's probably because of my voice. It can't be because of Cam and the game, which is awesome. Make sure you go, if you're driving somewhere, pull over to the side of the road so you don't cause an accident, and go ahead and at least check out the Kickstarter, Lewt Ninjas, and we'll make sure we go ahead and leave everything on our show notes so you don't have to go ahead and type it in your phone. But we'll leave it all in the show notes. And don't forget to go over to thegiveawaygeek.com, and they'll have the giveaway so you can win a copy for your friends and back a copy and get a copy yourself. And then you can guys all have fun laughing about Lewt Ninja. Thanks again, Cam. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on, man. It really means a lot that someone really reached out and wanted to do something on this game, because, like I said, this game means a lot to me.
No problem. Thank you, sir.
So, it's been Getting Geeky with Game Relief. We just wanted to do what we usually do, give a quick shout out to our Patreons over there on patreon.com. You can find us at patreon.com/Getting Geeky with Game Relief. Let me go ahead and give a quick thanks to them. I know we have everythingboardgames.com. We have Jennifer Longworth. We also have Gagnon. Let's see here. Well, let's see. What do we want to say? I apologize. Bear with me a moment. Okay, never mind. So, the people we have Ronald Gagnon, Jennifer Longworth, Ethan Ireland, Axel Murcielago, hope I didn't slaughter that, and Everything Board Games. If you want to be a part of the action over here at Getting Geeky with Game Relief and make it even more of an exciting place, make sure you come over and back our Patreon. We will try to see what we can do to get some more exciting rewards, but first off, we need to have the backers to make it worthwhile. Now, get on with going to Kickstarter so you can see some fun games. Once again, Cauldron, Bubble and Boil Board Game is about to be wrapping up. So make sure you go ahead and back it, because you don't want to miss out on the fun. And they might just be one game away, and you could make the difference of making it a game you play every Halloween. Ho 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 ho. It's been Getting Geeky with Game Relief. Download for free, as Barbarian Leaf likes to say. We'll talk to you later. Go get geeky, people.
Gamer Leaf levels up. Tune in next week to see if Gamer Leaf's luck holds up.